guys, what's happening? I know it's a little bit dark here, but this is Dr. Heather. We are just heading home. We were visiting someone in the hospital, and I was just, as we were exiting the hospital, talking a little bit just about government politics. We've been actually talking a lot about where money's, and I was kind of chuckling a little bit where the person I was visiting was ordering off of a cardiac menu. If you guys are joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. We're coming from you live from Overland Park, Kansas, and they were ordering a garden salad and said, hey, can I have balsamic vinegar? And they said, no, you're on a cardiac menu. You can only have French, Thousand Island, or Italian. So, okay, we ordered meatloaf, green beans, I had a salad, and then when they brought the tray up, of course, there were a lot of those sugar-free treats, and they brought up saltine crackers. Again, they couldn't have so many other things because of the sodium content. This was on the cardiac menu. They had a little tray. They had 2 packages of saltine crackers with a side of Mrs. Dash. I haven't seen Mrs. Dash forever, but I was laughing. She couldn't have the balsamic vinegar or any type of vinegar dressing on her salad because of the sodium content, but yet they had saltine and Mrs. Dash. So I was just sharing this. Dr. Ralph came and picked me up, and he's like, hey, I got something better. Don't even get me started. He said, don't even get me started. Well, I always say something to get him started, and he never wants to get on, I don't want to call it a rant, but he never wants to get on a chat with me about this. I'm like, you guys, he has such amazing stuff to share, but he never wants to get on. So you want to talk about federally funded school lunches and soda pop, or you want to talk about non-GMO or gluten? What should we talk about?
Well, the one I was just sharing with you has to do specifically with the wheat products that we grow in the U.S. We use a specific type of wheat that's drought resistant and bug resistant, so it can grow.
Just a second. He is driving. I am holding, so don't think that he's driving and talking, just for safety. Let us know where you're joining us from, and share. This is going to be awesome. I won't talk again.
So we can grow this super hardy wheat that doesn't need to actually be sprayed with things like Roundup, glyphosate, which is a neurotoxin. We don't actually need to spray it for it to grow, which is a good thing. And we actually grow food products, not food per se, in the U.S. in dirt. So if you know the difference between dirt and soil has all the nutrients. What happens is the farmers are being encouraged to use the Roundups and the fertilizers and all those types of things because they get government subsidies for that, which we get from pharmaceutical and big agri things like Monsanto that have been subsidized for the farmers to use this. So the point I was making with the wheat, nobody wants to consume Roundup, right? We know that's toxic for us. However, 100% of the non-organic food wheat products that are consumed in the U.S., 100% of them have glyphosate or Roundup in them. You would be shocked. There's a lab I'm going to probably run on myself that I just found out about, a lab test that you can run to find out how much glyphosate you have in your system. And the particular person I was listening to that eats a lot of organic food was shocked that he has glyphosate in his system, again, which is a neurotoxin. So what happens when we process wheat, which is part of my rant, is they grow it, and when they harvest it, they spray it with Roundup to basically just knock the leaves off of the wheat stalk so it's easier for them to process. And then it's then turned into the food particles in which we eat. So another thing that I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm going to pick up a book from Mark Hyman that talks about all this, and I'll get the name and have Dr. Heather put it in the comment section here. But we have a food pyramid that the government promotes, and yet the foods that are on there, such as fruits and vegetables, the government doesn't subsidize them. If we ate meaning they don't give the subsidies to the. It's going to go through the car here. If you don't give, the subsidies are given to the farmers to grow the certain foods. Well, there are no subsidies that are given for fruits and vegetables, yet that, if you look at the food pyramid chart, that should be like 40% of our calories. And yet the subsidies that are given is basically corn, soy, and wheat. Almost 80% of the government subsidies for the farmers go for those 3 products. So that's in part why we're never going to get, we live in such an industrialized food nation, it's hard for us to really get away from eating these processed foods.
Okay, other topic. We're going to switch on. And you guys know I'm a farm girl from Kansas, so I rode the tractor with my dad. I had him smell and touch the dirt, even tasted the dirt before he did rotation crops. We were talking about the amount of money that is spent on, I don't even want to offend anybody because for some reason we brought it up and offended my mom. We talked about the amount of money that was actually spent on diabetes, and we, you know, they didn't know what they didn't know in the 70s and 80s. So we have a lot of people in her population, people who are type 2 diabetics, and she got very offended on some of her friends or family members that are type 2 diabetes. But how much we spend as a nation on type 2 diabetes, and not on, well, tell us what the money's spent on, because this actually shocked me.
Okay, so if the United States government, federal government, was considered a corporation, it would be the largest corporation in the world. We have close to $1 trillion annual budget. 1/3 of that budget, so roughly $300 to $350 billion of that $1 trillion budget is spent on Medicare expenditures. So 1/3 of our federal spending is already spent on healthcare for about 20% of the population, mind you. That's the first part. The second part, of that 350 million, close to 100 to 150 million of that, billion of that expenditure for Medicare is actually spent on diabetes. And most of that is on type 2 diabetics as well. So we're spending a tremendous amount of money, we'll say $125 billion on Medicare, through Medicare expenditures on diabetes. And quite honestly, again, not to offend anybody, but type 2, specifically type 2 diabetes, is
reversible,
a preventable disease with the proper education. And it goes back to the industrialized food that we've been fed. I'm going to go back even farther. Before the 70s, we really started processing food to the point that we're processing it now. In the 40s, it's a post-World War II issue.
But I'm gonna stop here, because I asked him, like, so when you're saying we're spending all this money on type 2 diabetes, is this on amputation? Is it on, you know, is it spent on needles? Is it spent on medication? Is it spent on people getting new glasses? Because we know that diabetes is the most painful disease out there because of amputation, because of removing people's eyes, because of neuropathy. Is it spent on stockings? Is it spent on obesity? On, you know, what is the money spent on? Is it spent on needles? Is it spent on medication? Is it spent on pumps? Like, where is the money spent on? There's so much disposable medical equipment spent on type 2 diabetes, which he said is preventable, it is reversible, it is remissible. So where is that money specifically spent on? As you guys are joining us, let us know where you're coming from. We're actually joining you from Overland Park, Kansas, right in the middle of USA. So we love knowing you and want you to share this information. We don't just read the stuff for ourselves. Like, we walk down and he goes, we are on a mission. We don't know really what that mission is, but we always say our mission is to help people, give them tools, give them information. Maybe it's stats, maybe you're a number person, maybe you're not, but just empower you to take charge of your own health. But a lot of people don't know that type 2 diabetes is not a death sentence. It's remissible, it's reversible. You can actually put it in plateau or put it in a stall, so to speak. So where are those monies or those dollars being spent?
Well, not in medication, because Medicare expenditure, that's a totally separate expenditure in that Medicare program. So it's doctor visits, it's hospital stays. It's also treating the concomitant or the additional diseases that go along with diabetes. So yes, it is supplies, it's needles, it's glucometers, it's testing strips, it's diapers, it's hose, it's what we call durable medical equipment to help manage the symptoms associated with diabetes as well, in addition to all of the doctor visits and hospital stays associated with it.
So
that's
a
lot of money.
Yeah, and I kept thinking, like, how many people buy cookbooks? There's diabetic cookbooks. I mean, you start, like, making down the list.
Hold on. Just so you know, look this up. I can't remember where I just saw it. In the last week, I just saw that the president of the American Diabetes Association.
I just have to say it. I'm gonna drink some ketones and some water.
The president of the American Diabetes Association is actually beginning to control her blood sugar and manage her own diabetes by following, are you ready? A low carbohydrate diet. Now, not a ketogenic diet, but she's reducing the intake of carbohydrates that she's taking to help manage her blood sugars. Those of us that have been in this space for so many years, we already know that the American Diabetic Association's recommendations for food actually makes you dependent upon the very medication that you're trying to get off of, and then you got all the side effects associated with the medication, and you're caught in this cycle over and over and over and over and over. At some point, somebody's got to stop the madness and say, this is ridiculous. You're telling me to eat low-fat pudding and toast with no butter and washing it down with orange juice, and that's all sugar, 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 and then you're wondering why 2 hours later your sugar spiked and you have to take medication to get it to come down, and then lunch comes around and it's another piece of toast and some applesauce and not too much meat, because that may cause a problem as well. So you're trapped in a system.
Or better yet, there's a medication out there. I'm just going to say it's called metformin. The number one side effect is that you get diarrhea or GI distress from it. And the alternative, it does a great job at managing people's blood sugars. It helps bring them down. It helps sustain them. But the alternative to metformin is a very, very expensive medication. I hear this all the time. Well, my doctor says in order for me to take something or alternative, because it's hard to change your diet, is like $1,300 to $2,000 a month, and people can't afford that. Or you take the medication that now makes you dependent upon using things to help control your bowels, or now you're buying something, you know, like Depends or panty liners or things like that. I mean, it starts creating this whole domino or escalated effect. I wasn't going to go there, but I had to say that because I hear this stuff in my office, and people are, you know, are mortified of what's happened when they take something, and even when they do get their blood sugars under control, those things can cause permanent effects on your GI system. Like, I only took it for 2 weeks and then I changed my diet and now I've got it under control, but my GI is still permanently damaged from things like that. And we hear this all the time from different medications. But we are home, we are in our garage. But thank you guys for hanging out and chatting with us on this Saturday afternoon. If you enjoyed this little chat and you want some more of these chats, put a big high five, a big knuckle down. People aren't doing fist bumps, people are doing elbow bumps now because of the coronavirus and viruses and flus. But we're going to be doing a series on how you can actually help increase your own immune system, because you're only as sick as your strongest immune system. How would you like to say that?
You're only sick as your strongest immune system. I got to process. That's a double negative. Hold on.
I know, because, you know, Joe Rankin, who actually invented the x-ray machines, he actually did a lot of x-rays on his wife. I'm trying to figure those out. And his wife did get cancer, and he took a lot of x-rays on himself, and he never got them. So he actually had this theory that you only get sick if your immune system or if your body's weak. So we'll talk more about that. Won't put a double negative back out there again, but we'll talk about ways that you can actually help increase your immune system. But I was on a phone call with a few people, and they were talking about, like, not, you know, shaking your hands or saying hello to people, not giving hugs, not getting close, but doing more elbow bumps. I'm trying to elbow bump you guys, or, you know, or virtual high fives, or giving not instead of a high five this way. But you guys, thanks for joining us again. We love knowing where you're coming from. If you want to get my guide, I'm having a little bit of issue with my my MailChimp, but if you want to send me your email, don't put it down here because I wouldn't want you sending your email out to everybody. But if you want to let me send you my guide, which is an autoimmune friendly food list, it's got my favorite breakfast starter way, so you can start your day in the right way. It can be paleo, it can be low carb, it can be keto, it can be vegan, but I've got a great way of just my favorite breakfast items. I can send that to you. Simply just send me your email, send it through Messenger, or you can send it to Dr. Heather at Cardin Wellness. But I'd love to send that to you guys. And again, stay tuned, keep your notifications on. You guys have a great day. Give Dr. Ralph some hearts, some big thumbs up, because it's awful hard sometimes for me to get him on a little chat rant. It's awfully hard when it's not on live to get him to stop ranting and chatting, but it's awfully hard to get him to let me press the go button. So thanks again for him joining us. You're getting lots of hearts here. So thanks again. Say goodbye to your friends.
Bye.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Happy Saturday.